You are never alone. You are never alone. Just reach into your heart and Allah is always there. You are never alone. You are never alone. Through sorrow and through grief, through happiness and peace, you are never alone.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm happy to meet you again in another episode of Family Issues. A couple of days ago in my clinic, I saw a child who was very miserable, very sad, after a long trip between different clinics and doctors, pediatricians and other specialties. And the end result was normal. As regards the organic part, he is normal. All the investigations, radiological, laboratory ones, every investigation proved that the child is organically normal, nothing abnormal, and all the as I said, the investigations were nil or near to normal. But when I looked at the parents, at the father and the mother, I found them not having that chemistry you usually feel when you meet a couple. They were not at good terms together. I noticed this, maybe because of the sense of my practice and sitting long times with families. I noticed that there is something wrong. And therefore, I prefer to meet the parents before I meet the child. And it was not a difficult task to understand and conclude that there is a big problem between the parents. And the child was the end result and the sponge that absorbed all the problems. There is some sort of trauma in the family, and the pains maybe are collected in the children. Therefore, in this episode, we want to discuss what's called family trauma. What causes family trauma? This is a bit different from another episode that we broadcast before about family crisis. It's something new, but let me say something. A very common fault that so many doctors and so many pediatricians fall in is that they look to the child as if he is an isolated island. They look, for example, to a jaundiced child who is having yellowish discoloration because of what's called jaundice, or the pigment of bilirubin. That's a normal component in the blood. When the child is diseased or something, they consider the child as a liver, the area where the bilirubin is produced. They otherwise do not have time to think even where is this liver? Is this liver in the abdomen or in the belly of a child? And this child's psychology is affected by the discord between his two parents, and maybe this or these signs, which nearly looks as if they are something organic, they are just psychosomatic signs. That's the issue of this program today. And unfortunately, when I was so many times in the hospitals, I tried to go into some of the ICUs, but the workers raised a big poster that's saying it's prohibited for those who are not working in the ICU to enter inside. Nowadays, it's proved that this is wrong, specifically in the ICU. In the ICU, there was a big literature in medicine about causes of infection, and you have to wear gloves and overshoes and things to prevent infection from happening inside the ICUs to the patients. But what education and what knowledge and information recently proved is that the amount of enthusiasm and the amount of psychological improvement in a patient who is having something organic outweighs the side effects that may happen when his brothers or sisters or one of the family members comes to visit or keep staying beside this patient in the ICU. What's more astonishing, his pets, for example, if he's having a cat or a dog or any type of animals that he loves, and for sure, so many people say this is a great cause of infection. However, when this animal or this pet and those brothers or sisters or the friend you trust comes to you as a child or as a teenager or even as an old person in the ICU, this raises the immunity and consequently improves the health status of the patient, and this makes him better and better. And no scientific results said specifically that there are papers that prove that there is a correlation, scientific or significant correlation between entering even the ICU without these overshoes and the improvement of the condition medical-wise. Therefore, the psychological impact and the care around a suffering person or a suffering member in the family is very important and is one of the decisive factors in the prognosis or in the end result of what is going to happen to this person. Actually, when a family or a family member experiences any sort of trauma, psychological one or non-psychological one, the whole family, if they were loving or they are caring about each other, the family is going to pass into some stages, as they say. And the first stage is something like surprise stage or shock stage. For example, there is an economic crisis, there is a chronic illness that my child, for example, is going to suffer, or loss of money, or loss of someone, or death of someone. So this is very shocking, and the family, the whole family, most probably the whole members of the family are going to suffer from what's called the shock stage. Then, after a while, they are going to have what's called the adjustment phase. They are trying to adjust to the new situation, and therefore they are trying as much as they can to acclimatize and adapt with the new shocky or the new crisis situation. So let us consider in this episode the family as a unit or a body, a human body, that when it is exposed to trauma by any means, of course, the first thing is going to happen is the feeling of pain in this body. He's going to feel pain, and therefore one of the most important things is to try to give an analgesic, to lessen this pain in order, and this sufferance, in order to let the patient or the person or this body to feel at ease and at rest, and thence we have to treat the causes of this crisis. Therefore, if you look from this view, this point of view, to any event, any shocking event that faces a family, then you are going to think in another way, trying to care about the feelings and the emotions of everyone. This is what they call the art or the skill of coping with the problem. So many people do not have this coping skill, and unfortunately, or contrary, the parents have what's called the I can't syndrome. I can't bear this. I can't keep more. I can't bear this. I can't live in this shocky condition for a longer time. And the children or the sons or the daughters around this parent all the time, seeing him repeating this phrase, I can't, I can't, I can't, until they themselves get adapted to this way of reaction towards the crisis. This one way of what they call the post-traumatic stress disorder. They cannot adapt in a good way with trauma. Therefore, I hope in this episode that we can try to learn new techniques, new strategies in the family, and specifically it's very important for the caregivers, for the parents, the father and the mother, to know some skills in order to avoid saying this in front of their children, or to appear in this hesitated way in front of their children. I can't all the time. They are crying all the time. They are in a phobic condition, and the children are watching this day by day. Remember, very important thing, that parents' jobs are mainly four, as I said in one of the episodes before. One of them is giving the children sense of security. Sense of security. I want to feel secure. It's not the point that just I want to eat, I want to drink, I want to breathe, I want a house. I want to feel secure in this house. So this is the duty or the job of the father and the mother, even if there were stressful conditions around, or if there were any sort of problems. Also last week I met a child who is unfortunately having cancer. He is about 4 years old, is having cancer. It's a very unfortunate and shocking condition, and I don't know, but unfortunately I think this type of tumors the child was suffering from is from those types that usually ends with death. It's fatal. It's a fatal type. It's a very dangerous type. Hopefully that the child gets better. But anyway, you cannot deny that all the members of the family are sad, and the right of this child is to see his parents and to see other members in the family smiling all the time. It's not a lie. It's his right to live in a good quality of life, even though if it was the end of my life. Even if everything in this life invites me to be sad and to be feeling desperate. Therefore, I think it's very important to discuss this in the following sessions of this episode, or the following segments. So let us have a break and discuss this in detail. Thank you.
You are never alone. You are never alone.
Why righteous companions? It is Islam that given us the sense of dignity. I love all of them in a way that you cannot imagine. That Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu would say something and the Quran would come down matching what he said. والسابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار والذين اتبعوهم بإحسان رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. Just compare what you did for Islam with just one of them.
Dear viewers, Hoda programs can be watched in the English section of the in-flight entertainment directory on board all Saudi airline flights, domestic and international. Sit back, relax and enjoy watching Hoda's entertaining and enlightening shows on your trip. Hoda wishes you a safe and successful journey. Hoda, a light in every home. Islam Unveiled.
Who is God? Who is the Lord of Muslims, whom the Muslims worship? And the fifth pillar of Islam was to perform pilgrimage to the ancient house of God, which was built by the angels first, then reconstructed by Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, which is located in the most holy city on earth, that is Mecca. So we believe in those books as they have been mentioned exactly in the Quran. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, have been receiving the Quran on intervals, segments by segments, chapters by chapters, parts by parts. It took 23 years for the Quran to complete its revelation. You claim that the Quran is not the word of God. How could you convince me that there is only one version?
Dr. Muhammad Salah will cover issues related to Muslim worship, creed, books, and much more. So stay tuned for Islam Unveiled.
You are never alone.
Welcome back again in Family Issues. This episode is about family trauma, about how to raise the immunity of a family, what's called resilience of a family. That's what we are going to speak about tonight. But let me first give you our telephones if anyone wants to call to ask about or inquire about anything related to families, children, raising them, teenagers, marital problems. We are ready to answer him. The telephone is 002-023-835-248 or 249. Let me first answer one question that was kept from the other episode. It's about the way people punish their children. It's about what's called the naughty spot, because someone told me that the mother is making a rug or a carpet in the middle of the home. It's black in color, and it's calling it the naughty spot of the flat or the apartment. And when her child makes anything wrong or commits any error, she asks him to stand on this black spot and say, this is the place of the naughty boys or the naughty girls, this is the naughty spot. Is this a good way or a wrong way? Let me answer this. And my great apology to some of the foreign programs, like they call super nannies and nannies and some things like this. Sometimes not everything in programs is right. So we do not want to stigmatize or to label children when we are punishing them. I answer this question and say it's better than saying or calling this carpet or this area the naughty area or the naughty spot or the spot of the bad guys. Let us call it the punishment area or the timeout area, as they do in the volleyball. You know the volleyball, and how they, if anyone commits an error in the game, they send him for timeout for a couple of minutes, and then he comes back and the team plays without this player. So what's the difference? What's the difference between saying the punishment spot or the naughty spot? No, of course, there's a great difference. And if you keep on labeling your child by this way and say, you're a naughty boy, that's a bad girl, sit in the naughty place, go to the corner of the stupid girls, go to this, by time makes your child very fragile, losing his self-confidence, and before this, losing his self-esteem. And all the time he says, I'm a bad guy, I'm a naughty boy, I'm a naughty girl. You understand me? So it's very important not to call your child. Try to train yourself not to say this. It's not an easy task. And I remember happily one of the head mistresses that I've met in one of the schools, she said she called one corner in the class the thinking corner, where a guy or one of the pupils or the students in the class, when he commits an error or when he does something good, either this or that, she says, well, Ahmed or Hussein, please go to the thinking corner. The child doesn't know why he went to the thinking corner. She says to him, think, my dear, why I sent you in this corner. Is it something good or something bad? You are going to ask me now, what's the difference? What's the privilege? I tell you, number one, you are training the child to think. Because all the time, when you tell him go to this area, the area of the bad guys, you are stopping his way of thinking. Or either he may think in a very bad way, and he think that he is, it's a negative way of quality of conversation between two people. I think I have someone from Cairo, Iyad, Nada, Salamu alaikum. Nada?
I have a question, please.
Yeah, please go on, Nada.
Thank you. I got married in 4 months, I discovered that my husband is not tidy.
Yeah.
And I am over-tidy.
Not tidy?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I am over-tidy. I'm not shocked with
You are the opposite. You are the opposite. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
very much the opposite.
Okay.
I'm not shocked with the meaning of the word, but it makes me angry. I want everything to be in its place. I know I'm over, but my husband is over untidy too.
Yeah.
It makes me very nervous. How can I deal with it?
Okay, Nada, thank you very much. It's a very good question, actually. But let me tell you something very important. Keeping or being tidy or not tidy is not the most important part of a marital relation. People do not marry each other because he wants to learn how to be tidy. Or I don't marry, for example, a professor. My wife, for example, is a professor in the university. This is not a privilege for the man he's not going to have a lecture. He's not going to make a workshop with her, okay? Actually, what characterizes a marital relation between a husband and a wife is the feelings, the emotions, the love. This is number one. Number two, the very special relation and connection between both of them. So if a marriage is without these two important factors, the emotions and this very intimate relation, I think in this case, this is a problem. Well, Nada, keep with me. We are going to have a report about our topic today, and I'm going to continue answering your question, but let us first see a report about family trauma.
You are never alone. You are never alone.
Did you, your child, or any member of your family suffer from a trauma after the loss of any beloved person or pet?
No, I will not say a trauma. We have all lost someone, an old granny or a pet or anything, something. But I will not say that it is a trauma. So just sad for a moment, for some month, and then you need to go on.
Well, I mean, yes, the daughter of my sister, she got cancer, and I went with her to England and Germany, and it took a long time. This was very, sad epoch in my life, and in fact, it affected me very much. The strange thing, I got cancer myself in 2005. She couldn't fight it, but I fought cancer and I succeeded, And this was because she got cancer, I had started studying why it comes and how to fight it and so on. And I think that's why I have been able to succeed.
Yes, I once have one. He lost his mother and father in the same year. So he was in a bad or terrible trauma.
Actually, I lost both my parents, but I don't think any of myself or my brothers and sisters suffer any trauma at all. I think because we had a healthy childhood, we used to interact with a lot of family members. I don't think we suffered any trauma. I think we are very healthy and we are very social.
How should we, as a family, deal with such a situation?
If you believe in God, and you try to analyze, things, and to be patient, you can always find answers, But don't give up. You should fight and read. Troubled people don't read.
As we did, we all cooperated with him. We all always visiting him, go outing with him, just support him as he was in terrible. So in just 2 years, he became better.
I think the best, I'm not expert in the subject, but I would say the best rule or the best way to go through it will be just to encourage the children to interact with more members of the family, to encourage them to have more social relationship with friends, maybe family members, maybe to go to some some clubs, even sometimes just like to grow them up a Muslim childhood, it will help them a lot.
They definitely need to speak together. Always talk. You can't talk too much, I would say. That must be the medicine for getting out of it. And if it's really, really bad, then get some professional help, some psychologist or something.
You are never alone. You are never alone.
Talk. That was the answer of the last person in the report, and it's true that talking and speaking mutually, the relation between two persons who love each other in a family is one of the greatest cures for any family trauma. Let me continue and connect what I'm saying with what our friend Nada was asking our sister. She was saying that she is extremely tidy, and her husband, newly married couple, 4 months, he's completely the opposite. Okay, but let me give you an advice. Tidiness is good, and being accurate and being strict is something good, specifically in works, in jobs, outside home. And maybe if we are going to accept this between us as a husband and a wife, but when children come at home, please do not stress on them and put them in this stressful way, because this is not good in homes. Maybe in works it's good. Does this mean that we have to be untidy, we have to make everything a mess or a chaos? No, this is not what I mean. But don't make it very stressful on children, because sometimes your child is hyperactive, your child is inattentive, your child's way of life is like this. You have to accept him. Instead of living a long life feeling that you are not accepting me, and the truth is that you are not accepting, it's not true that you are not accepting me. The truth is that you are not accepting my way. You are new couple, 4 months. Maybe with time he's going to learn, but don't spoil your life, especially in the very beginning, by saying or getting nervous, as you have said, for the bed that is not well covered and the garbage that's falling here. This doesn't mean that I'm inviting people not to be clean at homes, but please do not make it that too much. You are a mother, you are a wife, but you are not a housekeeper or a quality inspector. All this issue that Nada was speaking about, we call it some sort of a hassle. These are hassles. These are not strains until now, because it's like degrees. These annoyances or these inconveniences in the relations are called hassles. These are hassles. A greater degree or a higher degree of problems may go up to what's called strains. And if these strains were so much heavier, we can call them stressors, like those we've heard in the report, like the death of a beloved person, like a disease, as we have heard, cancer, for example, an economic crisis. Nowadays, we are hearing about crises that happens all around the world, specifically the Middle East, these revolutions that are going on nowadays, and we are hearing about famous families, rulers or kings or presidents, families that are now suffering from crises, from tensions, from stressors, like it's a multifactorial crisis nowadays in some. I don't want to call specific names, but it's very obvious. People are suffering from great dramatic changes in their socio-economic levels, in their fames, in their ways of or styles of relations between a mother and a father, the parents and their children. Everyone is separated. This is a mega family trauma. What is the solution, or what should a family do in these cases? What is the duty? Whatever the end result is. We have to be stronger. A father and a mother, or the director or the president of the family, has to be strong to the end, to the last minute. He has to appear in a strong way. Unfortunately, he has to wear a mask. He has to wear a mask and say, inshallah, everything is going to be all right. You have to train yourself to do this. Instead of saying, oh my goodness, I can't do anything. Everything is going to be destroyed. We are going to lose everything. Our children are suffering and everything bad is going to happen. No. One of the most interesting things that I've heard from 2 weeks ago, a guy here in Egypt, a boy about 13 years old, who is now preparing to have a master's degree. And the vice president met him and he was admiring him. This is what we want. We want to look at the strengths of our children. And also a family as a whole has strengths and has weaknesses. Every family, you know, we've defined a family last episode as a group of people who love each other and who care about each other and who are responsible about each other. Of course, there is a maestro and there are other players, but they act as a unit. If, in spite of the different ideas and the different ways of thinking for every person in the family or every member in the family, but all of them feel all of us are one, all of us are a unit, this is a sign of success. You cannot suppose that everyone is going to think in the same way. Even if you are having an identical twins, every one of them thinks in a way different from the other. You have to accept this fact. Let me tell you, I've never met in my clinic, for example, two parents who are having the same opinion about any issue. Maybe some issues. But for example, the issue of raising the children, I don't, until now, see any father that identically believes in what the mother says. What does this mean? We have to break this relation? Of course not. We have to accept each other. We have, in order to build our family, to search for what are the strengths of this unit. What are the strengths? My wife's abilities, my abilities, our children's talents. He is having a good sense of humor. This is a point of strength. All of us are good painters, for example. All of us are having a good way to learn by heart Quran. These are points of strengths. If anyone is having a trauma in his family, or the family is having or experiencing a trauma, they have all of them to search rapidly for the points of strength and focus on them and try as much as they can to distract their thinking of the weaknesses and the bad things in their families. One important part in this method is the body language. The body language. If all the time we are frowning, we are sad, we are crying, we are depressed, if I look at my mother's face, I find her all the time sad. If I look at my father, he's frowning. This is infectious. This is infectious. So we advise everyone as much as he can to distribute happiness and good forecasting and to be optimistic. Let me first go to the break and come back to continue our talk.
You are never alone. You are never alone.
You have questions that bother you. What about issues of concern to you? Would you like to share things on your mind with us? Are you interested in solutions based on an Islamic perspective? Please join me live in Meet Your Advisor every Friday at 9 p.m. Mecca time, here on Huda TV.
Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. So is it logical to say all plastic surgeries are lawful in Islam to bring or to regain beauty? These very misleading questions need a very accurate and firm answers. Let us set up the rules and principles to cover all plastic surgeries in Islamic law. How Islam does legalize niqab or veil factor in our modern life? Is it fair to suggest that it is more cultural than it is Islamic? I would rather to answer these questions by just suggesting very shocking fact about niqab. Are you ready for that? How Islam does legalize polygamy when Islam always says that respect natural instinct and natural feelings, and knowing that not a single woman does accept anyone to share her in her kingdom. All what you have said is true. But is there any difference between your natural instinct and your natural desires? Or maybe between your interest or what you wish to have? Or maybe your interest and other interest? Is it true that anything came after the Prophet ﷺ regarding this deen to be considered as a bid'ah, innovation? Is neither this nor that? It seems very well complicated and confusing to many Muslims, especially when it comes to the saying of the Prophet ﷺ, وَكُلَّ مُحْدَثَةٍ بِدْعَةٍ, and Sayyidina Umar saying, نِعْمَةُ الْبِدْعَةُ هَذِهِ. Let us set up the very comprehensive definition of bid'ah according to Islamic law.
As everyone knows, today Arabic is considered as very important, very significant language. How can we produce the sound, the state of voicing, place of articulation, and manner of articulation? So in Arabic, the words which are written are pronounced.
We will learn how to write and pronounce Arabic letters correctly in depth. Explanation via board and presentation with many other important factors.
And we have today more than 300 million people speak Arabic language. Not only in the Middle East, but you can find a lot of people speak Arabic language in Asia, Europe, North America, and in South America.
What are you waiting for? Grab your notebook and pencil and stay tuned for Learn Arabic at Huda TV.
You are never alone.
We are discussing family trauma, and we are discussing how a family can resist demolition, resist destruction. A family destruction is not necessarily by a natural crisis, by an earthquake or a flood. No, it might be through an internal flood, the loss of sense of security, the loss of sense of confidence, the loss of trust between the heads of the family, the father and the mother, or the wife and her husband. So we have, if we want to continue our trip, if we want to continue this trip and to continue building these buildings, the children, the product of the family, the main product, we have to focus on the strengths of everyone. We have to make a scale. You know, there is a scale in the life of a family. There is a scale. This scale is between two powers. Number one is the demands, is the sources of stress, the sources of strains and hassles, the diseases, the economic problems, all what a family suffers from is called the demand to solve this problem. This is one of the powers in the scale. On the other hand, the other part of the scale is the resources. The resources, what does this family has as a potential of resources? Emotions, immunity. It's called resilience, family resilience. Family resilience is it looks like family resistance. How a family's immunity can resist the infection or the virus of stress or the virus of trauma. Is your family a high immunity family? Is your family a strong one that can resist a shocking event? Are you trained to be this person? Did you train yourself before marriage to be the skillful one who can resist these types of trauma, and to protect your children from having psychological problems or stuttering or stammering or bedwetting themselves or having any other way of expressing stress. You know, there are so many ways to, if you look at a child or at an adult and you find him, for example, sucking his thumb or biting his nails or crying all the time, stuttering, stammering, bedwetting, as I've said, some of the sexual behaviors, all these are signs of stress. Some small children put their hands on their organs or try to experience something like smoking, like having drugs. When you see these things, consider them as lamps in the light board of a car. You know, the board in the car where a light is glowing, for example, for oil, for the water, for the temperature, everything. These are signs, these are SMSs that says that this child or this person is suffering from something stressful. So your job is not to mend or to fetch for the lamp itself. Your job is to look for the problem. Where is the problem? And if you solve this problem, the light is going to be automatically turned off. So don't say to your child, get out your finger from your mouth. Don't tell your child or ask him why you are bedwetting yourself. What's called in medicine nocturnal enuresis. Some children make feces in their beds. This is what we call encompasses in medicine. All these are signs of stress. So we want to stress out our children. How come this? By distracting their minds about their weaknesses and distracting them about the power of the demand. Instead, be skillful more and try to focus on the strengths of these children and try to focus on the good things in your wife instead of just saying, why you are weak and so and so and so. You are not beautiful. You are not cute. You are not saying to me so and so. No, this is not a good start. And if you look at so many events in the history of Islam, for example, how Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, don't try to say anything bad to your wife about her shape, about her beauty. Because this way of affecting or distracting the self-confidence of your wife, because a husband for his wife, when he says you are beautiful, this encourages her. But if he says to her, you are bad, you are ugly, what's this bad thing in your eye or in your hair or whatever, why did you marry her then? Why did you marry her? To tell her this? I think this is your fault, not her fault. Or are you criticizing God for his creation? It's unwise of you to keep your life all the time criticizing your child or your wife for something that's configurational, or something related to physiology or to biology. This is the creation of God. And you have to choose what you want from the very beginning. And not to choose and then criticize. Okay? So better than this is to focus on, as I said, the resources, to focus on the strengths, to focus on the competences, to focus on the strengths of your family members. To raise the resilience of a family. Remember, a family with good socio-economic condition, when there is a trauma, an economic one, of course the resilience is better than a poor family. And the same thing applies to the psychology. This is very important because when you're having weak family, when you marry or you connect with someone who is very fragile, very weak in psychology, very weak in religion, very weak in these things, when you attack him, he's going easily to fall or to be cracked. And your children from this partner are going automatically also to be fragile. And when they live in this very bad atmosphere, they are going themselves to suffer and to express many signs of stress evidently in front of other people. So You are the wise one to choose what you want. Coping with stress is an art, as I've said before. And even if we don't know this, we have to train ourselves. You as a wife have to train yourself to stop one of 7 things which are very bad in the way of treating your children. For example, you are suffering from some sort of a strain. Let me call it a strain or a hassle. Like, for example, your husband is all the time outside. He is all the time in his work. You are not having a good family life. No quality family life. So this is something that's ridiculous for a woman or for a wife. We consider it, or we put it on the scale as if it is a strain. Okay? It's not a hassle, but it's not also a stressor. You have to solve this in a way or another. You have to cope with this and therefore it's very important to have meetings. Remember the last episode we've been speaking about family meetings. Don't do one of these 7 things. Try as much as you can to train yourself not to spank or to hit your children. Don't shout at them all the time. Don't say bad words or call them bad names. Don't criticize them all the time. Don't threat them all the time, and don't make fun of them. I think I'm nearly approaching the end of the episode. We have to conclude from this 3 things. Number 1, we are going most probably to find or to suffer from events, shocky ones. This is inevitable. Number 2, we are having resistance or resilience, and we have to do this in a good way because we love each other. I think, unfortunately, time is over. So I wish I meet you in the next episode in family issues and another family problem. So thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You are never alone. You are never alone. Through sorrow and through grief, through happiness and peace, you are never alone. So now, as you long for your past, prepare for your future, but knowing nothing's gonna last. You see, this life is but a road, a straight and narrow path to our final abode. So travel well, O Muslim, and paradise will be your home. And always remember that you are never alone.